Hey there, it's Q, and welcome back to Hold and Modify, YouTube's most poorly produced, underproduced Amiga channel. Today's going to be a little different from normal, even more different. This is going to be me just kind of talking about a lot of our first times. Now, don't get weird on me, don't think anything naughty. I'm just talking about there was one spot when I was a young person where I experienced a lot of my first things, my first neat things about computers and art and graphics and technology, and that would be the Amiga dealership. Some of you, it might be Babbage's or Electronics Boutique, all the various stores that were out there. And I just wanted to kind of do sort of a little chat with you all, and I'll show you some pictures, some fun retro pictures I have from way back when of those stores, particularly one I was at. Well, I just noodle around here on my Amiga, and hope you enjoy. It's just going to be kind of one of those really super casual, relaxed videos. Hope you stick around.
This computer will rule the world.
All right, so speaking of one of my firsts, yeah, Blade Runner, right? We all take it for granted who are into this kind of stuff. I'm an effects person. Of course, I love science fiction and things, and Blade Runner is a classic by today's standards. But you have to realize that way back when I was first getting into the Amiga and discovering the animation scene, and more importantly, when I discovered my first Amiga computer store, there was a lot of things I had not yet discovered, and it was an employee at that store that actually introduced to me the film Blade Runner for the first time on VHS. Inside that store, we had a big TV mounted into the wall, and he brought it. Basically, we'd shut down the store after hours. When everyone left and everyone shut down, we'd hang out there, and we'd get our Taco Bell and our Mountain Dews, and we'd say, "Hey, here, check this out." We'd pop a movie on, and one night, it might be Aliens, or it might be some other film, Terminator, Mad Max, and then it was Blade Runner. And I got to see Blade Runner for the first time at that Amiga dealership. It was pretty slick. I just wanted to talk about that. It's like there were so many things, as an aspiring visual effects artist, a person that wanted to get into the quote business, and I didn't have the money for college or that kind of thing or tech school. I basically worked at this Amiga dealership, mostly not just for money. When you're that young, money doesn't really seem that important. You can survive on Taco Bell and 7-Eleven or Circle K. What's important was learning skills. And being in that Amiga dealership, I came across so many fun characters, so many different people. And they all brought to the table knowledge they had learned and acquired. A lot of them were older people. Obviously, if they're at an Amiga dealership, they probably have some money. So a lot of these were professionals already. And I was this young 18-year-old kid, all wide-eyed and whatnot. But they would talk about, some of the cool technology. They would buy the technology that I would sell them, and then they'd have it in the store as we configured it, and I'd get to see it running. And I learned so many fun little things that way. There you go. As you can see, the amazing Blade Runner demo scene that comes with Lightwave 3D as part of the toaster install package. That looks really gorgeous, isn't it? But yeah, seeing this film there for the first time, I saw Buckaroo Banzai for the first time there. There was the VHS series, The Mind's Eye, which kind of kicked off the original collected animation works from universities and professional houses. Saw that for the first time while there at that store. And the store I'm talking about, my particular store, was called Computer Link. And they sold IBM clones that they built there, and they also sold Amigas. They were an Amiga vendor. And they also sold a lot of amazing things that I never had seen at other Amiga stores. There was like a couple Amiga stores. That was Computer Link. And then we also had one called State Street Computers, and another popular one called Ye Old Computer Shop. And then finally, the last one I remember was called Slipped Disc. And that was one of the last ones I went to. It was one of the last surviving ones of that era that survived. They lasted for quite a while. And Slip Disc is where we used to actually have our monthly Amiga meetings or 3D art meetings, team 3D meetings to learn about and exchange what we were doing with 3D. And we all would bounce tips and ideas off of each other. It was a lot of fun. It was a big learning experience. But anyway, the Computer Link store that I worked at, they sold a lot of European magazines. So the Amiga formats, type magazines, and all the others. A lot of customers came into that place just to purchase those magazines because that was like the only place they could get them. So I thought that was pretty slick. I would flip through those magazines, and that was really my only exposure to the Amiga game scene. Were those magazines, Amiga format? I was like, wow, okay. I wasn't really into all that. I was into spaceships and cars and what, I was used to. Like everyone told me about, Shadow of the Beast or Sword of Sodan or Battle Chess, but that was, and there's, of course, there was the flight sim games from Microprose. Those are pretty popular in the States, but beyond that, not much really. Mostly just those kind of games. But Europe, of course, had all those games, like an incredible amount of video games. It just blew my mind how many games they had. Another first for me was programs like I'm using right now in front of you. This program called Ford, which is a procedural generation program, which, as you can see over here in the left corner, it's real-time rendering, well, as close to real-time rendering as it can, on an Amiga, making these textures. What you do is you basically can create your own texture and make like a pretty texture, okay? I'm trying to find a better way to make this sound cool, but you can manipulate all of these fractal procedurals, all right? And you can animate them. These values are animatable over time, and you would save them out, you click render, and you would save them out as a series of image sequences, and you could have an animated procedural texture to use with whatever you wanted, whether it was in Deluxe Paint or Lightwave or whatever 3D program you might be using. And of course, the other thing I would have run into back in the day, which I really thought was a lot of fun, was of course the video toaster. Seeing a complete video toaster system set up was like, how do you have a whole TV studio in just this little tiny beige box? Because I had done tours of TV studios in Michigan. The toaster was a cool system. Those of you that know Amiga that are watching this video, you know what the video toaster is. That was a neat thing, but it was also all the people you run into there. I heard my first Amiga mod, at an Amiga dealership, of course. Somebody fired up this player, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe a computer could have so many songs in it, like stored in it. Like it used to be, there was tape cassettes and CDs, yeah, but how does this computer have all of these tracks in it? How does it fit it? The hard drive is only 52 megabytes, and that's where I learned about mods and what they were and what they actually meant. And I met some very talented people that made those and shared them with me, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I learned, comparing benchmarks. Like a new computer would show up like, yeah, this one's faster, this one does more, it does more of those neat things. And I'm like, okay, cool, so you should spend more money on this, right? And they're like, well, not if you're only doing this or that. And so you just run into a lot of firsts like that. And I discovered color printing on an inkjet for the first time in my Amiga store. We had such a great community of people and stores, and I'm like, why in the world did this all have to fall apart? And I guess, well, for those of you that know the story, Commodore just had really, really poor leadership. There you go, reboot. I guess we're going to reboot now. I keep forgetting that, by the way, for those of you that have been paying really close attention, I'm actually in a larger RTG graphics mode, 800 by 600. And Scenery Animator and Vista Pro do not like RTG mode. They get really fussy. So let's go ahead and reboot. So here we are, we're back. And what I could do is, it's not the end of the world. All I have to do is just come back here to screen mode and just get out of the Picasso 4 mode here. We'll go back to good old high-res laced. Here we go. Yay, I prefer the native Amiga modes anyway, I admit. So now if we go in here, we can fire up Vista Pro. And sure enough, yeah, she'll launch. No problem whatsoever. So if you ever run into that problem where Vista Pro is just being fussy on you and you can't get the darn thing to work, that's probably why. You could be running an RTG, and it just finds that rather unpleasant. It's not a very happy camper when you do that. Turn up the quality a little bit so we can see something pretty as I'm blabbing on about Amiga stores. It's like, oh, look at that. Got like a God's eye view of El Capitan there with Vista Pro and Ham 8 mode. Look at that. We're pretty high up there, aren't we? So there was one way to always be just exposed to the latest technology. Working in an Amiga dealership, all the new cards that came out, all the new software that came out, would come in, it would be sitting on the shelf, and our owner was really, he's like, listen, when that new software comes out, you do not touch it, you sell it. But if it sat on the shelf for a little bit, sometimes we were allowed to kind of carefully explore the software locally on our computers there. And I admit we did that more often than we probably should have, as long as we kept it as neat as possible and put it back as pleasantly as possible. So to some of my customers of ComputerLink, if you're still alive out there, you may or may not have had a slightly used piece of software, but no worries. We would never put anything back on the shelf that was mangled or anything. I just wanted to go down memory lane with some of this fun stuff with the Amiga. I mean, I guess today people go to the pub as older adults. We go to the pub or the bar and we hang out, or we go to the photo club or the library club. I don't know what people are doing nowadays. But, that's what people do. But back then, at the dawn of all of this stuff that was Amiga and art, and there was such a symbiosis, this perfect symbiosis between Amiga, all this up and coming 3D animation and technology and rendering and all the stuff that would be coming that we just, honestly, we're sick of it today. Everyone just gets tired of CGI, the excessive use of it. But it all kind of just started back in that awesome little, the Amiga store. You go to your Amiga store on the weekend as a kid or even as an adult. It's like after a hard week of work, you go to the store and you grab the latest magazines, or you just stand around, have coffee, and you just talk. You talk about what's the latest word? What have you heard? Yeah, there was BBS and MRC and all that kind of fun stuff, but there's no social media back then, really. The social media was actually coming into the store and talking to each other. We did that and shared ideas and exchanged files on floppy disks. It was really just a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of these pictures that I've been tossing up as I've been blabbling and rambling on here. I just wanted to share that. It was just one of those things. I'm sure a lot of you have your own cool stories about your local Amiga store. Maybe some of you traveled a long distance to go to an Amiga store. Please share, go ahead and share your story in the comments below. By the way, see this? I'm getting SSL issues, so I guess there might be an updated version of Amy SSL I need to install to get eyebrows up and running again completely. Anyway, that's about it. I want to wrap this up. Again, a little bit of a different video, me just kind of rambling, talking about my nostalgia for the old Amiga stores. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. I'm done with this video.